God is good? All the time? Some people asked me before I got to do my testimony if I was excited, and I said, oh, it's not always a pleasant thing pulling up the old you after you've spent so many years burying that old person, and now you're asked to bring him back to life for a couple of minutes. Yeah, if you don't already know, Pastor already announced it, my name's Nela, and I'm going to be sharing with you a bit of my testimony. I got a timer up here because I tend to go over my time a lot, so I got my time and I'm starting it now. I grew up in Tonga. I was born in Tonga and raised in a family of, I think it's 5, just me, my brother, my sister, my mum and my dad. When I was born, about 3 to 6 months into being born, my old man, my dad died, and so when I grew up, all I knew was a family of 4. I didn't really pay much attention to the fact that I had no dad growing up. It didn't really faze me. What happened was I just really clung to my mum, and I was really like a mama's boy, you could say. I just hung around with my mum, stayed with my mum, ate with my mum, slept with my mum, and you know, it was all that growing up. We didn't have much growing up. We pretty much had nothing. My mum and my dad ran away and got married at a young age, so we didn't have much. Their parents didn't really want to support them because my mum ran away and got married at the age of 18, I think, to my father, who was in the military at the time. They ran away and got married, so it meant that we had to fend for ourselves, my mum and my dad. At the time, we weren't making much money, but we did eat and we did sleep. We went to school. When I was about 4 years old, we came to New Zealand, and that's in 2004, I think it was 2004 we came to New Zealand, and I was 4 years old. My brother and my sister were in intermediate, so they would have been 10 and 11. My sister being the oldest. We were put straight into school. We were only meant to come on for a 2-week holiday, but at the time when we came, New Zealand, something happened with the New Zealand government, and they allowed all overseas visitors to get their permanent residency when they were in New Zealand. So we were lucky enough to be able to get our residency, and that's why we're still here today. We came and we stayed with my auntie. When we came to New Zealand, it was like a whole new world to us. I mean, back in the islands, we only ate bread, butter and tea for breakfast, for lunch and for dinner, and it had the odd taro and some little sippy on the Sundays, and that was basically life back in Tonga. We ran around with no shoes. And so when we came to New Zealand, we had like shoes. My auntie and them were buying us food. We went to KFC. We started packing on weight. We came really skinny. Like most island kids from the islands, you go to the islands, you come back skinny because of the weather and because there's not too much food around. And so we came skinny, and within a couple of months, we were all already packing on weight. We were enjoying the lifestyle. New Zealand to us was like a dream come true. McDonald's, going into McDonald's was like, wow, we're rich. We went to McDonald's. And you know, after a couple of years being here, my mum, at the time and still now being a single mother, managed to get a full-time job. And so we moved out from my auntie's house and we stayed by ourselves over on 5th Avenue. We were going to church the whole time from when I was born, and even up until I could understand what was going on. We went to church every Sunday. We were faithful. We did our prayers and so on. And so we basically came to New Zealand, and my mum was hoping that we could get a better chance in life because we basically had nothing over there in Tonga. And so when we came to New Zealand, we found a church over in Mount Wellington that we could start attending. And it was a Tongan church. We went there, and we basically went there every Sunday, and it was fine. But what happened was my brother and my sister, they started to grow up. And so me growing up, seeing my brother in intermediate, you know, I only know now, but they told me, because I used to wonder why my brother used to come into the living room and he used to just laugh at me and think I was so funny, and I used to think I was funny at the time. But after growing up, I realized my brother was stoned off his face, and that's the only reason he used to laugh at me, because it wasn't because I was funny, it was because he was laughing at me. And my brother was 10 or 11, and him and my sister, they started smoking, they started hanging out with the wrong crowd, they started doing a bit of drugs that I only found out when I got older. And this was the lifestyle I saw, and as they grew older, they only got worse. They started to get boyfriends, and girlfriends. They started to get into relationships. And as a young boy, I didn't really pay attention to much of that. I mean, I stuck with my mom. I listened. I played video games. I went to church. I went to primary school, came back. And I was all good. I was just your average PI kid growing up in New Zealand. And as I grew older, I started to realize what my brother and my sister were doing. I started seeing them smoke, and I started to realize that this was the kind of stuff that was cool in our day and age. And so as I grew older, I think it was about 10 or 11, I started to notice what all this was. I started to begin to create an understanding for what a relationship was, and what smoking and what drugs was. And it was at a young age I was exposed to all those things, and pornography. And by the grace of God, I didn't get too involved because I was too scared, and I was still a mama's boy by that age. My brother and my sister by this time had started getting gang affiliated. My brother started hanging out with Pastor Dalfa, and this was back in the days they started hanging out, they started doing drugs. My brother went from just coming home late at night to sleeping over at his mate's house, and went from sleeping over at his mate's house for a couple of days to weeks, to 2 weeks, 3 weeks, to months, to moving out. While he was still in school, he would sleep at his friend's house, come pick up lunch money from home and go to school. And so I started to see this, and what happened was I started to miss my brother, because I had no father figure, no real person to look up to at the time. And so my brother started going off on his own track, and I started to realize, oh shucks. And so for me, every time my brother came home, I was like excited. I was like, yeah, I get to hang out with my older brother, and I felt kind of cool. I felt kind of like the man. And he eventually just started pushing me away because he was unsaved. And so I realized, oh shucks, because in the island culture, if you're young, you don't hang out with your older brothers and that. And they kind of say something like, get lost or go over there, hang out with your own age group. And so I started to do that. And I went to church, and I was an innocent kid. I came to church back in Henderson, and we came to the Potter's house because my mom started seeing the way my brother and they were just getting worse. And she heard about Pastor Dalfa's family, how God had done something powerful in their lives. So we ended up moving over to Henderson. My mom just came one Sunday and said, oh, we're going to a new church. And we were like, hey. And we weren't too happy about that, but we came along anyways. I had no option because I was still 10 years old. And so we came along. My brother and my sister, different story. My sister came along, she got saved. Praise God, but my brother's still stuck in his old ways. Gang affiliation, relationships, drugs, alcohol, hanging out with the wrong crowd. He continued in his ways. And eventually, as I grew older, when I hit the age of 13, something happened to me, and I just radically went from a boy that loved coming to church eventually, and liking what was happening in the church. I became lukewarm. I became two-faced. I started living a double life. I was in church, and because I started at St. Paul's College, I started to see a lot of this happen in a lot of people my age. So I started to see, oh, all my boys have girlfriends now. At a young age, 13, all my boys are starting to run away, wag school, run away from home, and I started hearing about all this. And so I thought, oh, why not give it a try? And so I gave that a try, and the whole time I was in church, I started influencing a lot of people in church. I got people to live a double life with me. People smoke weed, and they lived a double life. And we came to church, and we played the Christian act. And I was the only one that got pulled out for it, because I just started getting worse and worse. We would wag and go sleep at different girls' houses only at the age of 13, and then show up to outreach the next day. I would go and sleep there, and then my mother started having sleepless nights. She was wondering, this young boy I gave birth to back in Tonga, he used to love me. He started wagging. I started being rebellious. I disobeyed my mom. I did what I wanted. I said, well, if my brother's not going to accept me for who I am, I'm going to find my own boys. I'm going to make my own name. I started hearing that it was cool if you got into fights. I started to chase an image. I started to get into fights to school just to have a name. I went to St. Paul's College only because I heard that school was known for fighting. So I went to St. Paul's College. I got into fights. I heard about all that. I was rebellious to teachers, never listened in class. And when I built up the courage, I wagged school. I didn't attend school. My grades were low. And this was the kind of life I lived only at the age of 13. I started getting into relationships. I used to have 3 phones. It's stupid now that I think about it, but I had 3 phones. And it was because in class we weren't allowed to text. And I'd always get caught texting, and the teacher would take my phone, and I'd be like, oh, okay. I'll pull out another phone, and I'll just start texting again. Teacher would take that one, then I'll pull out another phone. only to teach people. And a lot of these girls I got into a relationship with, I thought I was in love. Young love these days, but I thought I was in love, and I was like, oh my man. And I was like, going out with 3, 4 different girls, and it's all, I think about it now, and I'm like, what was I thinking, what was I doing? It got to a point where I started running away from home to see a lot of these girls. My mum had no control over me. She told me, what are you doing? And I said, okay, I'll go to school. Got my bus money, got my lunch money, bus to the girls' school, did the meetups, did everything, went to school, got in trouble, didn't care. They called my mum, came in, pretended like I felt sorry, woke up the next day, did the exact same thing again. It got so repetitive that after my brother got saved, he got involved and he started to really put some discipline into my life and told me, you want to live like that, you want to act like a man, you're not going to live here if you're going to have your phone. And so when they really challenged me, because I grew up with no father, and this was the first time I felt like someone was challenging the way I lived, I started to get defensive. I remember one night, to make a long story short, they sat us down at the table and they said, Nela, if you're going to live here, you're not allowed your phone, because I was so out of control, I was rebellious, and the police started getting involved. And he said, if you're going to have your phone, you're not allowed to live here. And I said, sweet. And I said, take my phone then. And I said, I'll go put it in the car. I walked outside, I put it in my sock, came back in. A message came in and I forgot to turn it on silent, and they snapped me. And I was like, oh, flat. And they kind of called me and they said, why is it still here? My brother came to grab the phone. My first intention was to stab my brother. I grabbed the knife, and then I was too scared and I ran, and my brother grabbed me, and that night was probably one of the longest nights I had. I had a full-on scrap with my brother. I was fighting him and I was swearing at him, cursing my mum, cursing my sister, telling them, you don't know what I'm going through. And I cursed him, and I remember smashing the window. My brother had me by the neck and he was holding me down, and he was like, you leave your family that loves you. We came to New Zealand just for this, just because you think you know what you're doing. And at the time I thought I knew what I was doing. I had my boys, I had a couple of girlfriends, I had a successful image. People looked at me, people talked about me, they called me a scrapper, they said I was good at rugby. And I said, these guys don't know what I'm going through. And I said, who cares about them? And I got into a full-on brawl. We were bleeding, the police came, got involved, and they told me, if you're going to continue being rebellious, you might as well move out of home. And I said, yeah, sweet, move me out of here, I don't even care about my family. I came back out, my sister and my mum were crying, my brother was keeping a good front for my family. As the police escorted me outside, I looked at my family and I'll never forget it. And I just said, I swore at my family, I said, stuff you don't know. And I walked off, I took my belongings, I went and I moved out of home. And that's the last memory I have. And one thing that I think about now, I talked to my brother and I said, I don't know why I did all that. Why would I do that to my mum? And I told him that it's got to be demonic. I remember one night my mum took my phone off me. And I was sitting in my room and so confused and like, these guys, why are they being like this? Why can't they just let me do what I want? And I remember going to the kitchen and being so angry. My brother was at the boys' house at the time. Being so angry and just walking into the kitchen and walking into my mum's room and being like, give my phone back. And she's like, nah. I'm like, give my phone back. Nah. I kept asking. By this time my mum started crying. And so I said, yeah. I walked into the kitchen. I grabbed the kitchen knife. I came back and I walked into my mum's room and I stood there. And I stood there and I said, give my phone back. And she turned and she only turned to see me there with the knife, and I was ready to stab and kill my mum. I was ready to stab her because I thought she didn't understand the relationships that I got into. She didn't understand the image that I was trying to protect. And I threatened my mum with a knife that night. And I'm not saying this because I'm proud. I hate to bring this up. And I threatened my mum, and this was the kind of image I chased. And I look back now, all I can say is that I was chasing an image. The story of my life pamphlet says Nela had a successful image, but still found himself empty and searching for more. And that was exactly me. I tried to be tough. I tried to fit in with the crowd. I tried to do whatever they did because it looked cool. And after 8 months of being put out of church, got what I want, I had the successful image. I was broken down inside. I was at my auntie's house crying, trying to find a way back home because the police had put a restraint on me and said, you're not allowed back home. And so I found myself, after 8 months of doing what I wanted, I had a perfect image. People at school respected me. I made a name for myself. And I found myself still empty and still crying. I ended up crying myself to sleep. I started trying to ask God for a way out. This was the first time in my life that I cried out to God, and I said, God, you got to help me. I've rejected my family. I saw each and every one of them. I'm in different relations I don't even care about. I've ran away from home. My grades are low. I've got nothing going on. I'm only 13, you've got to remember. Some of you may laugh, but this is the world we live in. People go through all this at 10, 11, 12, 13. It's only getting worse. And I went all through all this, and for a young boy at the time like me, I couldn't handle it. And one day God did a miracle. Long story short, I managed to get away home, and when I came back to church, I went home and I missed my family. I hugged my mum, my brother, my sister, and we went back to church that Wednesday or Sunday night. And I came to the altar, I lifted my hand straight away when Pastor did the altar call, and I got saved, and I got radically saved. I hated Pastor, I hated this church, I hated my family, I hated my mom, my brother, my sister, I hated everyone, because they never understood what I was going through. I came and I got saved, converted. I heard about a man named Jesus who could change my life. Because I'd done everything at a young age, I said, why not? Gave my life to God. Since the age of 14, I've been serving God wholeheartedly. He's changed, transformed me. I was once broken-hearted, chasing an image. God gave me an image. I was lacking my identity. You see some of my photos, they're not up there. Some of them I'm like a pretty boy taking photos. And another one, I got a full shaved baldy because I thought that was ruthless. Look at that. And I look back and I told my brothers, I go, why did I change the way I dressed all the time? And I said, I know what it was. I was lacking in identity. I didn't know who I was. I was trying to fit in. I tried to be a gangster, trying to be tough, and I looked funny trying to do all that. I got saved and God gave me an identity. I know who I am. I no longer have to dress like a thug, act like a scrapper, do this or do that, or be popular. God gave me a confidence, and He said, I'll take you as you are. He's transformed my life. You know, since I got saved, my grades were low, they shot up in school. I made it out of school. I finished school, got my level 1, 2, and 3. When I got saved, I went to my mom this one night and I got on my knees and I said, you know what, I'm sorry Steve, I'm sorry Mom. Because there was just one night I realized, man, I rejected the family who loved me, who tried to do things for me even though I was rebellious. My mom grew up without anyone to help her. She was a single mom. She went into schools just to get us food, and I apologized and I was in tears because I was sorry for what I had done. And I told my brother, I said, it's got to be demonic because I grew up loving my mom. We went to church, and to have that turnaround to where I was threatening my mom and wanting to kill everyone, I said, it's got to be demonic. But since then, God's changed my life. I love my family. I love this church. I love Pastor. And, you know, since then, God's helped me. People say, you've gone mature. I was like, I just got saved. That's what happened. So I just got saved. God changed my life. Since 14, it's been 4 years later, I got married to my beautiful wife, Nela. We are now married. And you know, God's done something powerful in our family. We had nothing. Glenda, could we have that photo, please? This was the house we stayed in Tonga. Could you pause there? That house is about the size of that bathroom, smaller. Could you go to the next photo, please, Glenda? In our house, we had one bed and a door. That was our whole house. This is how we lived with 5 people in our family. We grew up like that. My mom slept on the bed with me, with my dad. My brother and sister would sleep on the floor. This is how we lived in Tonga. This was the life we had. We had nothing. We scraped our way to Tonga. And if it wasn't for God, we wouldn't be where we are. Now my mom's doing a degree in nursing. My brother and my sister are both married. Even I'm married. My mom no longer has sleepless nights. All her children are out married and doing the will of God. And I have my hard times and my struggles as a Christian. But to every young person out there, I can tell you that the best decision you will ever make is to serve God. I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm saying it's well worth it. You don't want to end up being a statistic. I could have been one of those people who would have committed suicide. The way I was going, I would have committed suicide. And who I was back then, our family would have ended up broken with nothing. But by the grace of God, that He came and intervened, and He grabbed each and every one of us, and He changed our lives. And me standing up here today, I'm nothing but a recipient of God's grace and His power. And I'm telling you tonight, if you would hang in there, if you're here tonight and you're not saved, give your life to God. Maybe you've tried everything, and you're broken. Jesus is the answer. Jesus is the only way. He can set you free, and He can change you, and He can make all things new. You do matter. The Bible says you are fearfully and wonderfully made. And that's who we are, and that's who I am, and that's my story, and that's what God has done. that's also what He can do for you. Why don't you give Him a try tonight? Let's give God praise as Sharina comes up.